for the panel this afternoon. If we're ready to go, I think most everybody's back in the room. We want to ask, we're going to go for probing questions this afternoon with our panel. All of the questions have been submitted by members of the audience. Unless we run out of questions, then I'll start making them up. But the audience is helping direct this session. And the very first question that we have is very deep and very probing. Mike Young, what is your favorite color and why?
Man, I thought these were going to be hard questions.
That is a hard question.
No offense to any of the other football teams in the country who are not ranked number one, but red, because I'm a Georgia Bulldog.
See, I knew that. I knew there was going to be a good answer behind this question.
That's a complicated answer.
That's a very complicated answer. So we have 3 distributors and 3 manufacturers on the panel. And I'm going to go to a distributor first. And so, Mike, if you're willing to take this, and then one of the other distributors can jump in. Describe your company's process for planning co-op marketing efforts with manufacturers. How far in advance do you plan, and what tips do you have for those trying to plan more effectively?
That's an unfair question.
I don't even remember the first part of the question, but
describe your process for
could you make
planning
it longer?
co-op.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Listen.
The answer is red.
That's correct, Jimmy. Correct. What Jimmy said.
Come on, Kitzler Kitzler submitted this question. They'd like to know your process for planning co-op marketing with manufacturers.
Well, we aren't always as good at planning ahead. 11th hour, it exists for a reason. You know, nothing would get done, right? Were it not for the 11th hour. And we do try to plan a year ahead. So we try to put a calendar together of both newsletter articles that we're going to run and also the bargain buys. You saw an example in the slide earlier of that. And then promotions that we run, we do tend to kind of look at those things and during the season. So as the season goes along, we'll make some decisions about what we're going to do. Not so much on the fly, but we want to kind of leave some flexibility to what we do. So we may change some thinking, and if a new product comes up that we hadn't really thought about promoting, or it becomes apparent that that type of a thing would be good to do a promotion with, and then we'll plan it. So when we get with the manufacturers, we want them to just sort of look at it through our eyes, or really the way we try to look at it is what's our customer's most wanted outcome. That's through the sales training that we've had with Jerry Leo. That's something we're trying to focus on a little more, so that our salespeople are looking at it that way. And if we match up our promotions to what our customers are really most interested in, what they're really looking for, the promotion usually is going to be successful. So when we get with the vendor, we decide what sort of cost there's going to be. We decide what sort of cost sharing that there might be. Most of our vendors are very willing, if it's a promotion that's got some merit and they think it's going to work, in sharing some of that cost with us. So all that's determined up front, and then we put together whatever marketing material we need. Some vendors are good at, have good marketing departments and are willing to help with some of that stuff. Some of that stuff we do in-house. So it just depends on what's the most efficient, way of getting that done. And then we go with it. So.
If a vendor wanted to be in on your promotional efforts in 2018, when should they approach you?
Well, now would be a good time for anybody in the room that wants to talk to us about that.
And when is too late?
I don't think it's ever too late, honestly. I mean, if there's a good idea that comes up that a vendor, wants us to partner up with them on, I don't really think it's ever too late. Always better to plan ahead and have your calendar ahead of time. We do try to do that. I don't think there's ever a time that, if it's a good promotion, to not approach us with it. We need to stay flexible.
Good. Rob, would you mind the same question? Tell us a little bit about your marketing planning process with vendors.
So one of the questions we like to answer now is if new customers or new revenue with our current customer base. So we're not just treading water, like the swapping one item to another. So that would be, in the vetting process of determining if we want to do it. We'd also prefer longer-term promotions instead of these, 2 week, 1 week, 1 month. I find that it takes us as a company for everybody to even know we're running it about a month. You really just to get it out to everybody, to disseminate it, to get it written on our whiteboards, whether it's on the newsletter, the salespeople, the branches. We need time to introduce it to our company first before they can introduce it to their customers. So as much time as possible in preparing, and I'd say we'd rather run them for 60 days than 30 days, but as long, if there can be a season-long promotion on something, especially if it's a new item that you're trying to promote, I think that gets a lot more traction than these, flash in the pan things, because the information overload, you just can't even absorb it without seeing it a few times.
Okay. And Steve, same question. Tell us a little bit about your vendor marketing planning process and how to better participate with Reinders.
Yeah, from my seat, it's one that I would like to get more involved in. By and large, it's vendor and product manager discussion, deciding what strategic promotion they're going to do, and then letting the marketing team know about that through the promo process that we've set up. So from a kind of concepting standpoint, and planning standpoint, it starts with the vendor and it goes to the product manager.
And within your organization, just for benefit of the room, who are the product managers and kind of what's their role?
Yeah, so as a regional distributor, we have a number of nuanced product lines, landscape lighting, golf irrigation, Rescom irrigation, aquatics, of course, commercial equipment, and so on. So all of those individual product lines will have their own respective promotions from month to month. Usually ours run a month to 2 months. Sometimes we do season long, although I find that after a whole season it kind of dies off after about month 3, and then it's, oh yeah, at the end of the season we still have it running. So I think 2 is a nice little sweet spot for us. But as far as the process goes, that's how it works.
Mike, did you have a comment on length of promotion?
I tend to agree with what you're saying. Both Rob and Steve, I think it makes sense to not do these little short promotions because contractors get really worn out and inundated with too many of them. So the longer they go, the more time the customer has to sort of get acclimated to the product, used to using the product, liking the product, and hopefully when it ends, it's a habit, and then they keep on buying it. So yeah, a month or 2 is pretty good. A couple of months, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Mike, if you wouldn't mind, tell folks a little bit about your bargain buys and how a manufacturer might get their product into your bargain buys.
So the bargain buys are, we've done those, several years now, and we used to do them every month. So once a month we would have 6 items, sometimes 8, but usually we wouldn't do more than that. And we put an attractive price most of the time. Sometimes we don't even put a better price. We just market the product. We just put it in there and put what the normal price is just to create awareness. So it's not always just throwing a little bit lower price out into the market. And we mix it up, as you saw in that one example. We have tried to get several different categories of products. So each month, we've got a little bit of something for everybody that's thrown in there, and we try to cooperate with what the vendors are interested in promoting. So, I know with K-Rain, you saw that in there. They often they wanted some of their rotors in particular. They had a few different versions, and they might say, "We'd like you to promote this particular one," and we would agree with that as long as it fit into what we thought our contractors were looking for. We've gone to a 60-day and sort of the slower season, and then in the season we'll go with the 30-day. So we sort of mix that up during the year. So right now we have a November and December. We'll do a January and February, and that's just each of those 60-day periods. We'll have that list of products, and then in March, starting in March again, we'll go with 1 a month.
Thank you. I think it's an interesting program, so it's a good way to organize many of these different promotions that are happening and try to roll them into sort of one communication tool rather than information overload. We have 9 different specials with 9 different vendors. Hey, Mr. Vendor, come and participate in our monthly bargain buy. Now we've got a single communication, and you sometimes get interest because, hey, you're interested in the sprinkler that we're selling, and then that makes you notice that we also have weed control products or whatever. So it promotes cross-selling from that standpoint. I'm going to ask sort of a similar version of the question to the manufacturers on the panel. How do you approach distributors with promotions? What do you look for from a distributor when you're approaching them with a promotion? Tell me a little bit about your process of engaging with distributors around promotions. And Sharon, if you want to start.
Sure. Yeah, I've had the past year's been kind of an interesting fact-finding, learning year for me. I've talked to a lot of marketing people at our distributors, and what I'm finding out is that they're really overwhelmed with manufacturers presenting so many things to them. And how do they clear through the clutter? You know, and Mike just gave us a great example of what they're doing. One of the things that I'm encouraging and training our sales team to do, and I'll be having a breakout session at our national sales meeting around this, is coming up with a one-pager on an NDS promotion. They can put their own promotion together, but just simplifying the program, right? It is here's what the deal is, here's what you need to buy, this is what it looks like executed at the branch, and here's what's in it for you. Simplifying the opportunity and then making sure that the accompanying marketing materials are also made available to them simply. So I think too often, and I put myself in this bucket of marketing people sometimes overcomplicate things. We need to put the big fanfare together. Sometimes just a single document, it seems like, is enough with just the facts, you know what I mean? But the supplemental marketing materials combined with that one-page document seem to be well received, and I think you'll see some of that from NDS next year.
Good, I like that. I mean, more organization and the more resources that you can provide. There's daylight out there. John, let me get your thoughts from Kitzler's perspective on promotional efforts.
Yeah, so I mean, admittedly, a lot of that's handled through our sales team, so I can't speak directly to it. But I mean, from my perspective coming in, I think some of the important things with it is understanding, one, what does it align to? I mean, is it, from our perspective as a manufacturer, is it aligning to a new product, to expanding a product line, to growing a subsection of your industry and to your customers? The other thing too is being measurable. And I know a lot of us talk to you like, well, how do you truly measure it? So, whether it's a matter of growing sales, which, might be the ultimate goal, but is it coming down to, are you learning something? Whether the promotion, whether whatever's going on, is it making a difference? How many of your customers are participating? What can you do to either scale it, do it in a bigger way, or maybe change it up and optimize it to, make it more successful? So looking at those things and having that in mind when you're thinking of the promo, besides how do you move product, how do you get more sales, I think that's important.
Yeah, because I think it came up earlier today, there are goals for promotions beyond just moving units. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, you're trying to gain trial of a new product. You want them to try it out and tell you how they like it. You're trying to build brand. You're trying to build relationship. You're trying to say, thank you for your loyalty, and therefore we're going to do this for you by allowing certain customers into the promotion by how it's designed. So I think sometimes we think of promotions as, gee, it didn't work because we didn't sell 1,000 units. I know from STI's perspective, sometimes you just want to put it in the flyer to let people know that you have it. I mean, how else do they find out that you have King's Tree watering bags unless you put them in your monthly flyer? Otherwise, people don't know that you have that item. In so many cases, it's that. Jeff, Atlantic's perspective on working with distributors on promotions.
Yeah, so what we do is usually early fall, we put out our new pricing and our early buy program. So there's a big push by the sales team, make sure everybody got the pricing, sees all the new products, and has the early buy and is ready to go on that. And then in season, we do like quarterly promotions and bundling. So we'll do like pumps and color falls or lights and filters and do a discount off. We work individually with distributors on that sort of thing. So, typically if I give 10% off, they'll match it with a 5 or 10% off, and it makes a nice promotion to the contractors. Things like, and I know Lowell's maybe not the only one here, but he does a really nice show in the spring called Spring Fling. We'll do discounts around that. If people do open houses or branch events, we'll do discounts and or promotions around that. So it's for us. I do think we did a monthly promotion calendar with Virtual Rain last year, right, Kendall? So we do that as well. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question comes from Natalie of Professional Supply, and it concerns social media. I'm just going to ask each of the panelists to answer essentially the same question. I'll start with Steve. Your thoughts on what social media platform works best for you and what you might be doing as a company with social media.
So what works best for us, I would say, is Twitter. It's a great social listening tool. That's what we use it for. We monitor conversations that mention us, particularly in the green industry and golf course superintendents. They use it as an educational and community tool. So they will bounce ideas, turf disease problems, you name it, off of each other. Our reps will then sometimes respond in kind. We've tried to set up, from a corporate standpoint, some helpful hints and tips for them, not necessarily saying that this is the corporate protocol and that, your opinion does reflect on your role when you're on the job, whether you're, posting at a football game or you are in the field, you still represent riders to a certain degree. But we don't give them rigid standards that say you have to respond in this way and et cetera. But we use it we use Twitter a great deal as a spot where we can get to know our customers and what really matters to them, what the hot topic, hot disease is that you can help potentially put a promotion around or an educational piece that can help cure it. So.
Okay, a follow-up question for you before I go to Jeff. You chose Twitter as a social media platform. What do you think of the other platforms? You're particularly educated in this space and have a lot of experience. What's your advice to the group overall on social media?
I think it's really interesting how it's evolving. Facebook in particular for us is becoming kind of a job board. So it's a great place to advertise your open positions. It's also a place where we're getting more and more customer service requests for a particular part. We had a guy a few weeks ago who was like, I'm looking for this particular Underhill product, and then he described it, and then our social guy put a link directly back to the reply on Facebook to him, and he bought it from that link. So it's like, that's a little social win right there. Facebook's okay. LinkedIn just organically does well for us, but Google's and Google Business Listings, I would say, I consider social media, and it's a spot where you should definitely have it all filled out, have it all squared away, and you can share your promotions now. So when someone searches,
yeah, I was just could you expand on kind of what Google Business is?
Every physical location that you have should have all of its geographical geomapping information filled out. So it should have its address. It should have all of the correct phone numbers.
Hours of operation.
Totally. And you should stay on that because our hours of operation change.
And you can go in and edit them seasonally.
Even monthly now. You can, when someone searches for your particular brand or product, Google can show what promotion you have going on. So any sort of marketing asset that you'd create, you can show right there pretty simply. It's a very simple upload of a JPEG.
Yeah,
So.
and sort of the reason around the location-based thing is there's a tremendous amount of search for where do I get a Toro lawnmower part near me? And it's going to find that location, and then
Local
quite often
search,
the,
yeah.
the follow-on question becomes, what's their hours of operation, et cetera.
We haven't really delved into Instagram or Pinterest to a great degree. Pinterest, I think, gets a lot of easy traction if you put a little bit of money into it. And then I was talking to Kendall, and I mean, I think Atlantic has 1,700 plus Instagram followers organically. That's awesome. So that's something that we're looking at too.
Yeah, certain categories, Lynn, they're very pictorially oriented, a little bit tougher maybe for PVC pipe on Instagram, but who knows? Atlantic, Jeff, tell me a little bit about what you guys are doing with social media.
Well, since I'm not even on Facebook or Twitter or any of that stuff, because I don't know, I'm just an email guy, I guess, but Kendall will be much better at this. But I do know our product line is fantastic on social media because it is a visual, audible type of product. And so video on Facebook, Facebook photos, House, Twitter, not Twitter as much as Instagram, those different outlets are really good for us because we can visually show what a bubbling urn or a color falls is going to look in your backyard or patio, and that's really important, and that gets searched for quite a bit actually online. So, and then when people get a little more interested, then they're looking for the video. Can I do this myself? Can I put in, can I go buy an urn and a fountain basin and put that in my backyard? Type of stuff. So, or can I find a contractor in our area? So we try and help with that. So yeah, again, Facebook's probably one of our best, but Kendall would know better.
Instagram and Pinterest actually are, because we have a lot of homeowners looking to spruce up the backyard or something. Oh, sorry. Pinterest, surprisingly, we don't technically promote to the homeowner, but it's a good way to get the conversation started if that's what they're looking for. Everyone's looking. Actually, home design and updating is one of Pinterest's biggest categories on their website. So that it's huge for us. And Instagram, for another reason, is for contractors. Contractors love to show off their work, and they tag us all the time, and it's great.
If you wouldn't mind,
Sure.
I won't put Jeff on the spot.
No.
Could you explain to the group what House is and who might use it and what it would be useful for?
Sure. House is, it's a marketplace and it's an idea place. So it's kind of like Pinterest, but it's more specific to contractors. So contractors can go on there, they can post their projects, they can say, hey, I did this, this is a great thing. You can hire contractors off of there. You can also buy manufacturers' products or other distributors' products. So you can buy on there. It's great for home stuff.
Yeah, House is a very popular platform for, it's really interior architecture and interior design, but it's going outside the house. And so for those of you that are helping your contractors market, get your contractors on House. It's a really interesting space. Not so much for distributors and manufacturers, but for your contractors, a really good thing to give classes on. Kitzler's perspective on social media.
Yeah, so it's kind of tying in along with what everyone else is saying. The visual platforms are so huge. So from Pinterest and Instagram, those are two that I know on our own aren't as active in yet. We have a content marketing specialist that's going to be helping us in that social space and developing that content. But that's just such a huge place to get people to go to. And to drive that awareness is huge. I think actually, Jeff, you might have mentioned this earlier, somebody or maybe several people. Big thing is to have something else out of it. Obviously, you're driving inspiration or you're educating them, whether it's a product or whatever. Have some kind of call to action, whether it's taking them to a website, whether it's tied to a promotion. I think you get a lot more out of it than just being there. Another thing that I wanted to mention is don't be on a platform just to be on a platform.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen other companies in the past from previous companies I've been with where they're on everything, which you think is great, but it's noise because there's no strategy behind it. There's nothing that you're just there to be there.
Information overload.
Exactly.
You're checking a box.
Exactly. And one other comment too that I think is beneficial in social spaces is to have, it's going to be contradictory here, is be consistent but have variation. And what I mean there is depending on what you're trying to accomplish, maybe there's different tiers. Maybe some of the content you're doing is simply to drive awareness of your company. Another might be product. Another might be thought leadership. have a cadence, but have some variation of what you're communicating and be consistent with it, because this way they could always come back to you, and it's allowing you to connect with different customers at different times based on what resonates the most with them.
Good advice. Rob, what's happening with Aquarius with social media? I know you personally have gone viral several times, but we won't dig into that. Just tell me about Aquarius.
Don't talk about my virus.
Yes.
No. Sometimes I wonder if we're checking the box, like you said. We can see the analytics when we do the newsletter, and we get the analytics from Facebook, and we're on LinkedIn, and I can't quite see the payback yet. I seem to think that Facebook is much more B2C than B2B, and I know if it wasn't for my wife and my mother-in-law, I don't know how many likes we'd have, because my wife's like right away. She's awesome. But we have a sprinkler
Thanks,
system.
honey.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm still torn right now to see really what the payback is, and if that energy should be put somewhere else and where it should be put. LinkedIn, I think, has been great for employment opportunities and more of the B2B. I see our sales force is much more active on LinkedIn in sharing. I think that on Facebook they get confused with their fishing trip over the weekend and then the project they were just on. So I think LinkedIn is a lot better from a professional standpoint. But yeah, again, I got a lot to learn, and really where we should be focusing our real efforts on compared to checking the box. I think that's a good point. It's one of my takeaways I just wrote on my phone.
Okay. Maybe Sharon, now you're an expert at social media. You started early on. Maybe give the distributors some thoughts and the manufacturers some thoughts on how to know if you're checking the box, and sort of explain what boosted posts are about, explain what exposure is about, help us a little bit with some of the metrics.
Yeah, I think social media is, it was the wild, wild west for a while there, and everybody just felt like, oh my gosh, I need to have a Facebook page or I'll be out of business tomorrow, and that, I guess, speaks to checking the box. I've seen kind of an evolution. I don't know if you guys have seen it in the past, maybe the past year and a half or so, where colleagues, friends of mine who are in marketing positions at pretty big companies, we talk a lot about social media and the effectiveness of it. And really, I don't care how many Facebook likes I have. I don't care anymore, because I'm seeing Facebook very differently now. I see it as an advertising medium, and that is where my colleagues are putting their money. And I'm talking about Owens Corning, I'm talking about Home Depot, I'm talking about pretty big companies, and they're not even putting organic postings in Facebook anymore. They're advertising on Facebook. Facebook just published their earnings last week, 50% increase in ad revenue. Facebook has, besides Google, the best database in the world, and you can be highly targeted in who you're advertising to. So contractors are on Facebook. They have Facebook pages. They are personally on Facebook. Test something. Just test an ad. You can do it for, a couple weeks, a month. YouTube is interesting because YouTube is a great vehicle for communicating, training, and I talked about earlier, you can talk about anything you want on YouTube, but YouTube is also another place to advertise. Contractors are on YouTube. I think research is incredibly important. Analytics are incredibly important. Do research to find out what social media tools your contractors are using. The IA did some work and found out that LinkedIn was pretty important to them, as well as Facebook and YouTube. I also know that golf superintendents use Twitter for some reason. As Steve mentioned, it's kind of a listening device. Twitter is so interesting. If I was a distributor, I'd have Twitter Tuesdays. I'd have a tweet that goes out every Tuesday advertising a promotion, a special offer on something, maybe related to the golf course superintendents. Why not try something like that? But ultimately, analytics is going to show you what's working and what's not. For NDS, Pinterest has been our biggest social media referral tool. Yes, they are homeowners, and you shouldn't apologize for that. Aquarius, or Atlantic, is a huge consumer product. Consumers, at the end of the day, are the genesis for everything we do here, you know, with the exception maybe of the golf course guys and the big commercial projects. But hey, if a homeowner needs an irrigation system, a new pond, a new drainage system, they're calling a contractor, but you know what? They also educate themselves first about the products they want used, about the types of work that's going to be done. Contractors tell me that their best customer is an educated consumer because they don't want to have the fight about, you know, they think you're getting ripped off. So back to social media, I think that research is important to find out what social media tools are using. I think testing is important and cheap, quite frankly. I think hiring a content manager, as was mentioned over here, is really important. You can use Upwork for that. Hire someone that knows what they're doing, because you can push out the wrong content and that doesn't reflect well in your test, because you haven't really given it a shot. Does that make sense? I'm looking at you because you had a good point of view on content. Content is king in digital marketing. Whether that's video, whether it's copy, whether it's a picture. Instagram is something I've not done anything with because I don't have enough resources. And I've told you guys before, you know, you can't boil the ocean, you can't do everything. So try something. Facebook advertising seems to be doing well for us right now. I need to do a better job of it now. Now that I know it's got some legs, I'm going to do more of it next year. Same with pre-roll on YouTube advertising. Pinterest, I hired an intern for 2 months one summer and told him at $15 an hour, blow up our Pinterest page. Just make one for us. I don't even use Pinterest. So set one up for me, and he did. And we have over 100,000 referrals from Pinterest in our 3rd year. And that's interesting to me. Now I can track the analytics to see where those Pinterest users are going once they visit our website. Calls to action are important, as was mentioned earlier. But, I mean, that's a lot of information, Jeff.
Okay, well, and let me, John, did you have a comment?
It was just a quick comment, because the other thing is, like you're mentioning, is getting that content is sometimes hard. Having it, finding it, developing it.
Yeah.
Utilizing your contractors, to their point, they're out there advertising themselves, utilizing your product. Kitcher, that's one of the things we do, is we know that we can't reach out to everybody and have every single image possible. So we'll actually reach out to our contractor and say, hey, can we use this photo? We'll share it.
Yep.
We're sharing their content. So it's appearing on our page. It's related to our product. They get the benefit of our exposure, of our followers,
and the
we
credibility.
Get the great content. Absolutely. So utilizing that as a content generator, if you don't have the resources or the time, that's at least a place to start.
And Sharon, I just want to follow up, just for benefit of the audience, to go through a couple of the things that you covered fairly fast. Just to clarify, so a distributor that wants to advertise on Facebook, let's say I am Derek Wright Supply, and I have opened in Omaha, and I am going to compete with Reams in Omaha, and I want to take Reams' customers away. What I can do as Derek Wright Supply is I don't have to have a Facebook page per se, and when you say Facebook advertising, I'm not posting something to the page for Derek Wright Supply. Instead, I'm going to them, and then tell me a little bit about how I would engage with Facebook to create an ad campaign.
Yeah, so that is a little confusing. When I talk about advertising on Facebook, I'm telling you there is a shift. Let's say I'm Coca-Cola or Bud Light, and I used to advertise on NBC. Now I'm advertising on Facebook as an advertising platform. So forget posting organically, all right?
Because those people aren't following your page.
Those people aren't following your page. And Facebook has figured out that if you like the only people you're reaching when you post something are the people that like your page. And then, so you got your mom, your sister, your cousin, your best friend.
And only a small percentage of those, unless you're willing to pay a fee. So it's not very good.
It's not very good.
So tell us about advertising.
So Facebook has figured out how to make money, finally, right? And a lot of these companies, digital companies, they kind of jump into business free of charge, right? Facebook is no charge, Pinterest is no charge, House is no charge. Now until they start getting traction, and now they're just trying to figure out, how do we make money? Well, we make money by being an advertising platform. So we want people to advertise on our website, on our platform. So that's why you now see really good ads on Facebook. I don't know if you guys use Facebook, but the news feed, the ads have been terrific. I mean, they're
Yes.
highly targeted, they use video, they use great imagery, they're all conversion-oriented, click here to learn more. The real estate agents, I think, do a great job with it, especially. Whole Foods does a great job.
They're
I don't know if
very
you guys
they're
have
very
any-
creepy and
They're a
knowing a
little
lot
creepy,
about you.
Little creepy, but
because
highly
they
targeted.
know about you based upon all of your other likes.
Yeah.
And so they're going to serve up that ad for that new distributor in town
Yeah.
based upon your other behaviors. So it's a pretty powerful way to find new customers.
Yeah,
it's sort
it
of an
is.
interesting way to do that.
And also I can't underestimate what Steve had said about your Google listings. You guys, you should all have your Google listings filled out. Those are like mini websites. If you go to Google Maps and you just type catch basin, you should have that baked into your Google listing so that people can find your location locally. That's how contractors are looking for you. Oh, I need a 6-inch pipe. They're going to go and see who's listing pipe in their description. It's a very powerful.
Yeah, I see it show up in contractor search activity where they type in Rainbird parts near me.
Yeah.
Or Rainbird distributor
Yeah.
near me. And near me seems to be a search.
It's a great project for an Upwork consultant. Hire a kid or a college kid, hire them for a week to set up your Google Places. I mean, it takes a couple hours. It's nothing.
Mike, you've been anxious to talk. You're Smith Turf social media maven. Tell us what you have going that's going viral.
I really don't know anything about the subject, but I was going to say everything that they all said. So
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
we are not, we're 23 months into a new ERP, so I know any of you who have gone through that know how much time that takes up. Massive project, and we really do very little. We are on Instagram. We have a Facebook page. We don't do much with it. But I agree with one thing Rob said. I think it's really important for all of us as distributors, is the social media seems to be much better for, the business to consumer, to advertising and promoting. Because for us, if we don't already know who the contractors are, the customers that we're trying to get, if we don't already know them, we're not going to find them that way. I mean, you may by happenstance get a little bit of it, but it seems to be a better way for contractors to do business and get business than for distributors, to me. Not that we wouldn't be on it, not that we wouldn't do some stuff for PR purposes, but that's sort of our approach up to now.
Okay. And Mike, I'm going to have you start with the next question, which comes from Jimmy White of Lasco. And the question is, why the heck are you buying so many Spears fittings? Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, we're not, so
Yeah,
there. How's
I'm
that?
I'm sorry. Wrong question to the wrong panelists. I scratched that one out. I'm sorry. Jimmy meant to have that one for somebody else. The question is, what is the best form or tactic that you're using for marketing? That should be easy.
Wow,
Best
that's a
form or tactic you're using for marketing?
Broad question. The most, say that again?
The best form or tactic that you're using for marketing?
The best form or tactic?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes. Jimmy asks hard questions, I know. We'll ask the Spears one later.
I'm here to stop you guys.
Mike's still faxing out his marketing.
Oh, yeah, okay, fax machine, all right.
What's a fax?
It's that thing with the thermal paper that curls up.
I was
Now
the guy.
you're getting it.
I was the guy when fax machines came out that said, "What do we need that for?" We just mailed it to the guy.
Awesome.
And now you're totally dependent on it. It's been great for you. You got how many in your office?
I don't know, 1 or 2.
Yeah, the thermal paper bill is incredible.
So, I really don't know how to answer that question.
All right. I'll go to Sharon because she has an answer for everything.
That's
Video.
pretty broad.
Video.
I knew the answer to that.
Yes. Video, and she's going to connect you with some good producers.
Well, that makes sense because we don't do any of that. So, there you go.
Rob, what's your best form of marketing to reach the audience?
I'd say it's our newsletter. We have about 8,000 recipients that get it and about a 27% open rate.
That's very good.
Very good.
That's very good. And of that open rate, it varies each month who opens. That's the other interesting thing. So your total exposure is probably around 40%.
I don't think it, I don't think it changes by more than a point or two.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, in any given month, certain people open it and certain people don't,
Oh.
based on whether they're busy that day or whatever might be happening in their life. So in other words, some people are reading all 12 issues, some people are reading 10, but
It's different 10.
yeah, it's a different 10. So Kichler, related to the Pro Landscape Lighting channel, what's your best marketing tool or tactic?
Yes, that's a tough one for me to answer. I'm taking a little bit different direction of an actual tactic. It's more of, I think I would say, something around nurturing as well as conversions. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing we do is, one, not only educate people on the product that we have, but for existing art, we have strong partnerships. So how do we take those partnerships to the next level, as well as how do we get those partnerships that we have to convert over to our product? So anything that aligns with that is the closest thing I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of different landscape lighting options out there, and you
Yeah.
want to move them to the right one, which is Kichler.
There you
For
go.
any of you that didn't hear that, the correct lighting line to promote this year is? Kichler. Okay, it's not Lasco Landscape Lights. Sorry, Jimmy. Okay, over to Atlantic. What is your best marketing form, tool, or tactic to help Jimmy out?
How we go to market, we are consistently only selling to distribution, marketing to distribution, and helping distribution sell their customers.
Good answer. Steve,
I love email.
what's that?
Email.
Email.
Email converts. Otherwise, paid search, which we don't do, traditionally has the best conversion rate of any digital tactic, at least. But people click emails and buy from them more.
Okay.
Hey, Jeff, one comment I would make because we talk a lot about, I mean, the whole social media thing is a subject, it's constant, people talking about trying to figure out how to use it and, does this make sense and what's it getting me? One thing that gets left out a little bit in the whole idea of marketing things is that if our sales teams and Jimmy, if this will help even manufacturers' sales teams and reps, if you have independent reps, going around with our sales teams, going into our branches, driving business to us, calling on customers with them to deliver all those marketing messages that we do put together, makes a huge difference. And without that, it's like that three-legged stool with two legs. And we really need that part of it. And I think most of the manufacturers in this room are pretty good about doing that, but we could always do more. We'd always get more help, more concerted, focused effort to take the things that we do put together and get out in the marketplace and actually talk to people and find those customers and drive them into the distributor. Because in the end, what we're all trying to do here is sell more products, sell more stuff. So just a comment about getting some sales help to couple up with the marketing.
Okay. Next question comes from Kevin Colesworthy of TWC Distributors. And I'm going to direct this to the folks that are the manufacturers. And the question is, what is the best way for distributors to work with manufacturers to help you improve the email newsletter content that you're providing? If a distributor has ideas or suggestions, how should they work with you? Who should they work with, and how do they do that? And Sharon, do you want to take that first?
Sure. I think have a meeting. I mean, call a meeting and let's talk about it. I think the newsletters are terrific. My experience has been that they don't always get executed, so the compliance or the rate of execution doesn't seem to be great. And that tells me that maybe the content wasn't appealing to the distributor. I don't know, but I would like to just feedback from you on what's worked maybe with other newsletters you've done. I mean, they seem to have a very good newsletter open rate. There must be something you're doing right with your content and articles that's working. I think it's nothing more complicated than that. Just maybe a meeting to talk through that.
Okay. John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'd agree to that. And I think the other thing, too, is the relevancy of it. So, I mean, from my perspective, I mean, you would be coming to somebody like me. I mean, you could go through our sales group, essentially it's going to get forwarded back to me. But to that point, of all of our different distribution partners, for me, it's coming to me with at least a plan of what you're looking to accomplish, because that I think could help myself and our organization have support materials behind that. The other thing too is making it more regionalized or localized. We have our initiatives that we're trying to push that we're obviously wanting to help you guys push and be successful at, but if accent lighting's not your thing, if it's more of water lights, that allows us to focus in the right areas, or the way we talk about it, to your market, to your customers. There's different nuances of how you do that. So I guess coming to us with a plan, figuring out what matters to your region, and then how we can support you with materials behind it.
So you don't mind an email from somebody in the audience with a question or an idea, or?
I've been handing out a handful of business cards, so I'm expecting it. So no, absolutely, I think it's great. I mean, I would rather have that happen, because again, I mentioned this earlier, the repetitiveness of what a lot of us are saying here today allows me to go back, and if I don't know what 5 things are, I need to look through my notes, but if there's 5 things I can do that could benefit everybody, those are the 5 things I'm going to go back and do. So if I'm getting emails from several of you looking to accomplish certain things, I can do that once, tailor it a certain way, and benefit more of you that way instead of all the one-off. So I think there's an advantage to that. So.
Okay. Sharon, did you have a comment?
I was going to say, another piece of feedback that would be helpful is from you guys, give us some thought starters on collaborating with other vendors. So I just had a conversation with, he's not here right now, Chuck. He's a pipe guy, and we make drainage products. That would be interesting to do some kind of a collaboration on a drainage or stormwater management promotion or something. So I think optimizing that touch point with the contractor so they're not overloaded with a ton of information. One simple message that maybe combines 2 or 3 vendors would be interesting. And that's the benefit of being, I think, in virtual rain. We have access to each other.
Okay. Jeff, how would distributors give you feedback towards newsletter content?
For me?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, how it gets opened, if it gets open, and then, where it's going from there. So just the analytics they're seeing. We don't get to see their analytics. So if they do have analytics, that would be very helpful to us. Then we would be able to build a better article, if you will, once we know what type of newsletter article is working the best.
And I'm digging for this because I'm going to follow up on the very thing that you said and ask the distributors on the panel, and I believe it was Jimmy White who asked this question. And I'll start with Mike and go across to the distributors. If a vendor like a Jimmy White is interested in understanding analytics related to your newsletter, would you share that information?
Sure we would. Yeah, why not? If we're partners in trying to sell the product, we should share that information. We would want you to have that information. So,
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, Rob?
What specifically, like what analytics are you talking about?
Probably open rates and success of various things, and any you want to expand?
Your click rates, if it's a promotion, then how many people responded to it? We don't get a lot of feedback from wholesale distribution on promos or advertising we do, and so it gets to be a frustration of mine when I go to sign a form or whatever for a cookout or whatever it is. Did you get 10 people show up, or did 5,000 people show up? I mean, well, that's...
Yeah, we definitely would share that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for.
That'd be part of
That's
the
it.
follow-up at the end when we're asking for the check.
Yes. Maybe I won't approve those unless I get that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, one of the challenges I think is sometimes gathering the data. So Steve, what's your thoughts on sharing analytics?
Heck yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
it's
I
a-
have
it's a
no
win-win.
problem with that whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's just making me wonder what the most clicked article from all of your newsletters is each month. Maybe that's something that we can learn from.
The NIPCO economic report.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's the most clicked item of the year.
Well,
Yep.
there you go.
Yep.
Everybody knows now.
Closely followed thereafter by anything that's a video, which would be, to Sharon's point, from the very first presentation, which I'm sure that's why Cassie and Derek and the rest of the marketing team put Sharon up first, is video is becoming incredibly powerful, and you do your own video production, so you know that.
Is the economic report almost always at the top of the email?
No.
Okay.
No, it just happens to be content that is clicked. And then the third are the troubleshooting guides. Regency Wire does a troubleshooting guide. that one continues to be a real high source of clicks because it's something that is, it's a topic that seems to be of high interest, especially based on their videos. And it's something that is knowledge that is sort of portable that can be used over and over and over again. It's not necessarily product-related knowledge, it's how to do my job better knowledge.
Yeah, not that you haven't shared this on the monthly calls, but this type of information is interesting to me, just going forward.
Well, we'll make sure that maybe someday we'll put the marketing guy in the panel instead of having him ask dumb questions. I want to follow up on something Kevin Colesworthy brought up, and I'll put it in a little bit different language than he used. He used nicer sort of approach, but let me maybe express sort of the issue that I've heard, and this is for the manufacturers. Sometimes when you guys have a commissioned rep, and I think most of you up on the panel don't have commissioned reps, so this may be a tough question. There's an issue of, and maybe sometimes you have factory salespeople, but there's things that we discuss as virtual rain that are programs that we're trying to work on together, like a newsletter, and someone like Kevin at TWC says to your local representative, hey, we're working on content for the TWC newsletter for November, and we really like to work on a better promotion for accent lights. And your person's first question is, what the heck is the TWC newsletter, and why are we messing around with virtual rain, and virtual rain sucks, and all blah, 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 blah. So I guess the question is, the concern is, when is the right time to work with your local salesperson, and when is the right time to reach sort of to you and to work on these things? And then further to that, will you smooth out the ruffled feathers with the local person who maybe feels like their authority has been challenged because Kevin is calling Sharon instead of calling the local guy? You see the issue?
Yeah.
And can maybe I get some comments from the panel on that?
So 48% of NDS's sales are managed by independent manufacturers reps because California is one of our bigger markets and we have a lot of reps there. The rest of the country is managed by a direct sales force. One of the frustrations of dealing with independent manufacturers reps is that you're fighting for mind share with their other lines. It's almost like fighting for mind share with distributors. You guys get hit with so many vendors. Well, our reps are the same way. Every year we have a sales meeting with them. We kind of roll out what we're doing. They just don't always remember. I don't know how you fix that, except we try to consistently communicate with them what we're doing, but I think we're one of 10 emails they get a day from other manufacturers. So I think if you're not getting the positive, response from the independent manufacturers rep, just call the regional sales director at NDS. They are the person they report to, and certainly you can call me. Happy to intervene if necessary.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to jump on that. I'd say our regionals, because as I'm learning more about our sales network, and the same thing of independent sales reps, you're fighting for a share of mind with them, but ultimately we want them to be successful. So whichever way a promotion or an opportunity is coming along, we should entertain it. Now granted, yes, at maybe my level, I might not know every single distributor, every single opportunity, but our regionals should, because regionals are there to help the independent sales force in being successful. And as long as it makes sense, we have programs, we have, co-op dollars. There's things available to make those things happen, so.
Yeah, and I think the thing that the distributors, several folks have said to me is they don't want to end up on the bad side of the local person simply for asking a question about how do we drive things forward, but sometimes that happens. So it's sort of something that needs to be brought out among this group is, as leaders on both sides, we need to be aware of that conflict, that sometimes people have a sense of ownership. This is my territory. Why is the factory telling me how to run my territory? But on the other hand, we got to create win-win at a very high level if we want to move things forward. Any other comments on that? I think it was a good question.
We have probably 70% of the country covered by manufacturers' reps, and where their value is to us is their relationship with the branch people, with the outside salespeople, with the buyers, those folks that we don't have day-to-day with. We're hoping that they're in those locations, they're making sure that the branch people know what's new, that they got the catalog out, that their displays are put together correctly. The counter days, they're attending them, they're engaged. So we do expect a lot out of our reps. Actually, Kitchener and us carry a lot of the same manufacturer reps, but anyway, I think most of our guys are pretty good at what they do.
Good, thank you. Yep, comment.
Yeah, Jeff, I just want to say something from a distributor standpoint. You have our attention for a limited period of time, and when we're looking to put something together, we usually try to do it within hours and days, not months, because after the excitement of putting the promo together is gone, we're on to something else, So I would say that it's, if my salespeople come to me because they have to address an issue with a customer, we got to get back to them within 24 hours, solve it, and go on to the next issue. This stuff can't linger, and I think sometimes these promotions and stuff linger with the manufacturers, and nothing ends up happening. So I think you got to, it's that strike while the iron's hot type thing, and make sure that things are addressed immediately.
Yeah, there's so much going on. There's information overload. So when you have a distributor that's interested in working with your product line, move quickly and figure out how to satisfy that need, because otherwise they move on to something else. Good advice. I'm going to turn to a question from Tim Cleary, which I understand was ghostwritten by Andy Donaldson and submitted under the name of Tim Cleary. So we're not quite sure of the origin of this question, but we know that it comes from the marketing geniuses at Turf Equipment, and I think it's a very good question. And it's really long. So what I'll do is I will paraphrase the question by asking this simple question. When thinking about marketing content for a website, email, newsletter, social media, where does good content come from? And Steve, I'll start with you.
Define good.
Content that the audience will value and engage with, and that will do a good job for a great company like Turf Equipment.
Speaking with reps, answering the problems of customers, and trying to fix their problem. I think that helpful content is probably the best content that we have, probably the most highly engaged. Otherwise, it's for our sales reps, we're trying to put together some actual sales case studies so they can either pitch or help kind of influence a potential sale. Showing their product line's effect on a similar course installation, commercial green space, what have you.
Yeah, showing in some cases that here's this customer, maybe you don't name them by name, but here's a case study of a customer who's X size with X number of employees, and they did this.
Yeah.
And here was the impact to their business. If you're sort of that type of person, you might look at doing that same thing.
We named them by name, but I wrote the whole case study before we brought it to them.
Exactly.
So we did a video and case study that involved all of our product lines on one particular project. I'm like, we're just going to do this. So we did it, and then thankfully they were a good enough partner where they said, okay, you can do this, might make a change here and here, but it's a great look at our offerings and our ability to deliver. So that was one of my favorite pieces of content. I don't know if it's going to be effective or not. In the field, it's definitely like an extra thing a rep could email out and say, did you see what we did here? So that it has some practical value to it. But otherwise, if it's a short little how-to video, I really like those. They get a lot of traction. They get a lot of engagement. And if it helps solve a problem, it's all the better.
Yeah, a company to watch related to how-to videos, I'll say their name. Ewing Irrigation is doing a really nice job with how-to videos.
Yes, they do.
So go look at their YouTube channel and see what they're doing, because they're not doing the, hey, it's Bob here and I'd like you to see this XYZ light fixture. It is very much around what are these seasonal challenges that contractors are facing, like how do I winterize a centrifugal pump? I mean, this time of year, that's something that people are dealing with. Or what's this particular type of weed or fungus infection, and how do I correct that? So all of those helpful content. Where does, from Atlantic's perspective, where does good content come from?
When it's personally delivered, either at our place or your place, that's when it's really good content. We feel the contractor, distributor, salesperson walk away from a 1 or 2 hour training event or longer with the knowledge needed to move forward for the next 10 years versus the next 10 minutes.
Good. Kitzler, where does good content come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's already been touched on a little bit already. It's answering questions that relate to customer needs, whether it's informational, educational, even inspirational. So, I mean, I think that's where the ideas come behind it. The matter of developing it, we do have an internal brand team. Now, the challenge with that, of course, again, is resources. You know, you have a dedicated team developing content, but for Kitzler, they're thinking of all product lines. So, one of the things that we're looking to do to get better content, and it's even something you've mentioned, Sharon, is, you know, freelancers. You know, there are people out there that are dedicated, and if you want to speak to a customer, speak and think how they think and communicate to them that way. So having someone that's maybe outside the industry think and answer those questions, it gives a different perspective that might be a little more relatable.
Yes, and sometimes in some spaces you have sort of amateur experts. There's like in the world of B2C, there's home remodeling bloggers that do projects themselves, and you can engage them with your product. But there's also sort of contractors who are experts in this space. I'm thinking there's a guy in Texas who's done a landscape lighting book that he's written. Paul Goslin, I think is his name. He would be somebody to engage to write content. He's not going to write it perfectly exactly for Kitzler, but he's an expert on the space and can talk about how your product might be used. So. Rob, for Aquarius, where does good content come from?
I guess I'd like to specifically talk to one subject, which is like the facts section on a website. So, you know, Google wants to show that you're you're an expert in your field. So, and we're still not done with it, but specifically the facts section, the questions and answers, can show that you're a professional. And I think we took a team approach because we really wanted to identify a lot of our competitors in the specific segments to make sure that we get, you know, their competitive information in on there, their names and subject matter, so that even if you're searching a competitor's product line, you'll kind of end up on our website.
Yeah, so building out SEO and building out all of the different brands that you carry and having that traffic go to you in your geographic area.
Exactly.
Fax is FAQ, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Because specifically, we tried doing, you know, paid ads, and a lot of the terms we wanted to search, they wouldn't even take our money to search the terms because they were so bizarre. You know, they'll take your money for landscape lighting, but they won't take it for specific stuff. So we went absolutely nowhere with the paid advertising.
Yeah, you have to really drill down, and some of it's better organic than it is paid. Sharon, where does good content come from?
I think it's data-driven. There's so much content you could do. I think that the source needs to come from data. We use a couple different data sources. One is Google Analytics. I think I shared with you earlier, Channel Drain is the #1 landing page that's visited on ndspro.com. Channel drain is a topic that I spent a lot of time on. Also, I talked to our tech services team to find out what are the top 5 questions this quarter that are being asked of you by contractors. I'm going to answer those questions, whether it's in text form or video form. I'm going to answer those questions. The other thing I would do, I use Qualaroo, which is a real-time survey tool. Qualaroo is that little thing that pops up sometimes when you visit a website, asks you one question, maybe 2 questions. A lot of people don't realize Qualaroo can not only ask a qualitative question where you write copy in, but it can also ask quantitative where you check a box. So I use Qualaroo to define and drive help me prioritize what content I'm going to put together, because it takes time, and I don't want to waste time, and I want to make sure it's highly targeted. If I was a distributor, I would be doing a Survey Monkey with my branch guys, the counter guys, because they're your first line of defense besides your sales team, who are talking every day to contractors. And I would survey them and ask them what questions. Give me the top 5 questions that you're being asked from contractors. Maybe send it also to your sales team and aggregate all of that, and you'll start seeing a trend, and that'll help point you in the direction. So, you can't do everything, so I'm very big on prioritization. Prior data is the way I prioritize what we do.
Yeah, data-driven content development. You mentioned taking a look at what drives search traffic to your website. Just to comment on that, it's not only what's causing people to come, but it's also when you look at the data and you see what should be happening that isn't happening. So in other words, if you're a distributor for Rainbird, which is a major product line, and you're not getting people landing on your site because of a search for Rainbird parts or Rainbird distributor or where do I buy Rainbird in Omaha, Nebraska, your website has a problem. And so you have to fix that content problem in order to capture that, because that's traffic that you want.
If I was a distributor, I would have my local, I would be aware of the local regulations, for instance, in my area, and I would be pumping that helpful content out to contractors. A buddy of mine runs marketing for a pretty big bank out in California and San Francisco. The #1 traffic driver to her website is a white paper they did on Sarbanes-Oxley. That's interesting, right? It's a piece of content that's really important to their customers that's driving convertible traffic to her bank website. Likewise, in our industry, I think you were mentioning Ewing. Ewing does a terrific job with their content. They have a huge marketing department. But Ewing, we should be identifying useful content. Contractors understand that regulations drive behavior change, so let's help them. You know, that would be a thing to test, at least, to say what are the local water management, irrigation, whatever regulations that impact demand, and maybe create content around that and be an expert on that.
And related, just to play on regulations and sort of how that could help drive content to a website, you mentioned Sarbanes-Oxley. A company that used to be associated a little bit with Virtual Rain that's sort of in the periphery for many of the distributors is Hindsight Software. And one of the projects that I did with Hindsight was to help them understand that contractors were looking for help maybe hiring employees. That has nothing to do with selling a piece of business software, but it's the same decision maker. And there is very little content on the web about how does a landscaper go about hiring employees. So if you actually Google how to hire landscape employees, in the top 3 or 4 search results will be Hindsight Software with a white paper on that topic, just to get you on their website to maybe sell you business software. They want to be part of that conversation.
The top 2 breakout sessions for a large distributor whose event I attend annually are HR and bidding and estimating. Those are the standing room only breakout sessions at every one of their events. And these are thousands of contractors that are going to these things. To Jeff's point, I think finding out what their pain points are, like hiring, curate content around how to find, how to find a pipeline of contractors to help with bidding, estimating, with mowing, maintenance, whatever.
Yep, and one that's specific to markets, which I've tried to tackle with the newsletters and it really can't be done on a national scale, is local lien law.
Local what?
Lien law, how to collect money, how to place
lien law.
how to place a lien on a job to make sure you get paid.
Yep.
Contractors have a ton of confusion around that issue,
Yep.
and unfortunately it's driven by state law rather than federal law, so it's something that you can do on a local basis. CPS has had a lot of success giving seminars on how to place a job lien to make sure you get paid. And so for those that are doing commercial business, that can be a significant factor if they're working for GCs, so it can be helpful. Mike, where does good content come from?
Not a lot to add, but I think if we always keep in mind that every article that we put in there has something in it for the reader. There's got to be something in it for them, a reason for them to read it. They walk away and say, yep, that's a good thing for me. I get something out of that. So kind of keeping that end in mind with every article, and some of it could be stuff that we know is good for them. They may not know it yet. It could be a new product that we want to describe and describe it in a way that the customer goes, oh wow, that's cool. I need to look more into that. And it can be feedback that we get directly from a contractor or through our sales teams, but not always just, that's not a one-way street. We can go out and actually ask questions. We're trying to do a lot of training with our teams on doing better discovery questions, to understand the customer, to learn about the customer, what their needs are, what their worries are, and then come back and gear some articles towards those types of things. So again, the customer, when they read it, it's something that they want to read, it's something that they want to get something out of. So, to add, just kind of similar to what's already been said, but it's a little more intentional on our part in coming up with those types of things.
Yes. I'm keeping an eye on things. Each of our panelists stayed up very late last night to prepare their presentation to us today. I mean, they were studying. You should have seen the stack of books that Rob Beausoleil was carrying around. It was incredible. And I'm sure each of them came with some wisdom that they wanted to share with the group today based on all their preparations. So the final question that I have for each of you is, do you have any closing comments or things that you want to share that I didn't ask about? And I will start with Mr. Pease.
I guess I have a question for the group. I'm wondering how you, from a marketing perspective, what works best for working with your sales teams to help push promos? So
You could have been the panel moderator. This is a good
I
question.
should have been.
Yes.
You should have been up here.
Yes.
Switch places. Just wondering what you guys have done to specifically from a maybe communication standpoint, or how do you get the sales teams to properly help push or really after the fact give you feedback on how.
I'm going to pick some panelists here. Our first panelist for your question is Tim Cleary.
A big stick. That's a great question. I think it's constant communication. I don't think there's any easy answer to that. It's just constant communication and staying on them.
Right. I got another panelist
calls,
over here.
stop-bys, all that.
Same question. Scott Knowles, how do you make that happen?
It is communication, as much forewarning as we can give them, and then we have to sell them on why they want to do this thing, whatever it is. Then they just have to understand the details. So it's education, communication.
All right. Who else has a comment on how you get salespeople aligned with your strategy? Yes.
Share results. So the communication in advance, but at the very end, that was the one piece we were missing for a long time, was sharing the results with the entire organization so they can see the fruits of their efforts or their lack there. And that was really, when they saw the lack thereof, it started to click.
You don't want to be the branch that didn't sell anything when the other branches.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, seriously, you don't want to be called out in front of all your peers as the one that didn't jump on the promo because you see somebody else sold 23 something or others and your store sold 2 and all eyes are on you because it's like, come on, this was a great program. Everybody else had fun and you had none.
Cool. Thank you.
So, Jeff.
Atlantic is rebranding with a new logo, and tomorrow from 1 till 5, we will be serving free beer as a celebration. You are all invited.
Is that in the Atlantic booth?
Yes.
Awesome. And is there any limit to serving low-weight individuals like myself that don't add value to your service chain?
You can have as many as you want. It'll actually be fun.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And we have actually a working pond and a separate wall water feature next to our booth. And if you see Jeff in it around 5 o'clock, that'll be great.
All right. Just all of you that have a phone, be sure to call me an Uber. All right.
You can't follow free beer.
Yeah.
You can't beat free beer, right?
Yes. I'm working on my beer belly. Come
Right.
on.
No, the only thing I could say is every time you go to one of these things, you come out with, I think somebody else mentioned it, you come out with like 20 things you want to do, right? So the only thing I could do is kind of like a final statement is 2 things. One, test some things out. So whatever you're going to do a couple variations, whether it's social media, whether it's promos, whether it's newsletter content, whatever it is, do a couple variations, and then the other part is test it. Because I mean, that's the biggest thing is what works, what doesn't work. It'll help you learn. Instead of trying to, again, bite off more than you could chew coming out of something like this, try a couple, find out what works, replicate, and then maybe expand from there.
Good advice. Rob?
Probably heard me say this before, but with all the information overload and with Jerry Leo, the sales training, you know, we don't want to waste our customers' time, and the manufacturers shouldn't waste our time. I think you really have to send your team in with an agenda when they come for meetings, and they have to follow up and then bring things to closure, because if I look at all of our sales reps who come and visit us, I would be out of business if half of my sales team performed that way. Unfortunately, half of them probably do. But the lack of follow-up, the lack of preparation, the lack of having an agenda, you know, the donuts are nice, but we just really don't have time to have unproductive meetings. Really have to, and the agenda beforehand would be great. So we're asking that of all of our manufacturers when they come and meet. It's so much helpful and so much more productive.
Good advice. Sharon?
I was going to say exactly what he said. I go to a lot of digital marketing conferences, a lot of marketing conferences. I go in thinking I know a thing or two, and I leave thinking I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing, and I know it can be really overwhelming. You're scribbling notes. Oh my gosh, I got to try this, I got to try that. Lean on your vendors to help you. I'm here to help you. I'm a resource to you. I want you to grow. I want you to be successful. I'm happy to help you with anything. One of the things we do at NDS that I think really helpful is our president puts our priority initiatives together, and we communicate them every day and update the teams all the time on them, so that we're able to focus on three things, I would say, that drive our marketing plans, our business planning, our sales efforts. Everything, manufacturing, everything is driven around these priority initiatives. So leaving a meeting like this, as you put your business plans together for next year, if you can focus on a couple of key product areas, then you can do, as has been suggested, just test a few things. You know, make one video, test some advertising on Facebook, do a couple things and just see what works. So prioritization is key, and ask for help. That's it.
And that's Sharon Vessels, all one word, at ndspro.com.
No one ever calls me. I offer every year.
Yeah, Sharon Vessels at ndspro.com.
Please
Sharon
email
Vessels
me
is
or-
all one word, and if you need to know how to spell it, see her afterwards. Email her. Come on, get some advice. Mike, closing comments.
If I was going to say one piece of advice would be listen to your branch managers and your outside sales teams. Listen to them, because they're the ones that are in front of the customers all the time. So they're going to give you good feedback on what customers want, what they need, what's important to them, because they're interacting with them all the time. And it doesn't hurt, and I was surprised you didn't say this because you said it to me a minute ago, you want to get their buy-in and their participation in some of the marketing programs and activities, pay them. That always helps. A little incentive doesn't hurt. That gets some buy-in. And by the way, Jeff, what time is that beer tomorrow?
Yeah,
1 to 5.
yes.
Okay.
So on behalf of free beer at 1 to 5, let's have a round of applause for our panelists.